Hi folks, Susie here. I thought it might be interesting for you to see how I've done a whole bunch of complicated papers. I made this little journal for StudioLight as a sample for the show which is coming up shortly, and did a couple of pages in here, as you can see, and I've done a whole bunch more now. Actually this morning, a whole bundle of them, and I just thought this could be something to give you an idea if you want some highly decorative pattern papers and you haven't got a lot of supplies. I have only used 4 stencils and this stamp, which is actually fun foam, and it's made from a die which is also StudioLight. It came in the one-day special that was on Hochanda. So what came in the kit was the die to cut this actual planner shape, this one which you could use for a spine or whatever, and just the 4 stencils. So it's a case of, if you haven't got a lot of stuff, use what you have and use it in the absolute best way. I also wanted to take the chance to use up a load of my almost run out dyes, my almost, not dyes, paints, sprays, etc. So this is just a sheet of text weight paper, and I've got some scrap underneath which has actually ended up being pages as well. So this is basically how I've started. So something like this, for example, I'll get a couple of sprays. This is a Prima one, yellow mustard. Now these are all highly coloured and give a bit of sparkle, so not all over, but just a few things. And the first thing I'm going to do is pick up my wet stencil, then I'm going to flip it over and rub down. I know a lot of people are doing this sort of thing with a jelly plate, but if you don't have a jelly plate, or you just couldn't be bothered to get yours out, which is what usually happens to me, I make prints in this way myself. So that's just one there, and then I'll put that aside to dry, and then I'll carry on working on it, because also I'll want to do the other side. So here I've got a file folder. I was really disappointed in these, so we're going to do my storage solution for dyes, etc., and unfortunately I bought the medium weight, and it's light, it's flimsy, and I'm not a very happy bunny. Right, so I'll just lift that up. It's stuck. Get it out my way. I can carry on here, get myself centered just a little bit better. I actually like to work on white. I find it a lot easier to see. It's sacrilege, everybody will hate me. I did buy that black glass plate by Tim Holtz, simply because he said it's so easy for him to see. Unfortunately, what works for him does not work for me, and I have really bad eyes, and I found it just made things harder. I couldn't see what my colours were, and I really have to see what I'm doing. So as you can see, this is quite fast and furious. I will just use a few colours that I think will go, and every single time I'm either putting another piece on top like so and picking up the excess dye, or I'm flipping the wet one over, working again the other way. Now these have all got a glimmer in them, so that's going to be really nice when that dries. So that's that one. You can see more there. Now that has smudged a bit underneath. I'm actually not going to fuss myself too much about it, because by the time I finish, layer upon layer, you can't actually see that anything's sort of lurked underneath too much. It's better if you can actually hold it down, but then of course I'm getting it all over my hands, so that's a bit ugh. I found on this craft even the yellow shows up rather nicely, which makes me very, very happy, as you can imagine. Right, I'll leave that one there like so, and I'll come back in with that one. I really love this particular stencil. I really like the shape of it. Yep, that's come up very nicely. It just makes me happy, and I love colour anyway, so this is all working out very, very well. Right, I'll just fill that bit of space in. And I'll flip this one over onto this one. Oh, that has flooded a bit. Not to worry. I'll just blot up. It will still show through. And if I get it on my old tea towels, well, they just go in the wash with a pair of jeans or something. Yeah, you can see that's coming up really nicely. If anything, I'd say the flip side actually works better. Right, I'm going to turn these over. I'm going to do the whole lot in one go, then I'm going to set them aside to dry, because I want colour front and back. So, what colour shall we have now? I've got these glimmer mists, which I'm dying to get used up. I'm right at the dregs of the bottle. There's virtually nothing left in them. And then at least I can throw them out with a happy heart, conscience free, and get some more. Now the good thing about these, no doubt you're thinking it's absolutely horrendous how my fingers are getting dyed, is that they're all water soluble, so when I've finished I can actually go and wash my hands, which is probably going to be a very good idea. And again, any splats, that's absolutely fine. And I think this one I'll go a bit darker. This to me is very sort of Indian, Persian, Oriental in feel. So I'm going for the brightest colours. I'm letting them mix however they want to mix, and I'll simply take it from there. Right, so that's two sides. That can just go ahead and dry. That's bled through. That's absolutely fine, because I'll be going on top and working some more. That's that text weight paper. That's actually bleeding through quite nicely as well, because I do want colour both sides. Now what I found better than the text weight is this scrap paper. This is actually a child's sketchbook, so it's thin paper. The paper isn't very nice. I've used it for gluing and all sorts of stuff. And in fact, I think I'll do one on this one when I finish this here. So one more time with this stencil, then I'm going to change. I just got a squish of that orange paint there, which I put on one side, but of course I went and daubed straight into it. Right, so this time I'll use this paper. It's a cheap thin cartridge paper, very, very lightweight. Oh, I like that. Very lightweight indeed. And let's just see what it's called in case anybody is interested enough to know. Watercolour drawing pad, 100 GSM. So it's basically a medium weight cartridge paper. Right, so we've got that one. I wonder whether I'll get anything off of this as well or not. little something, That I don't want, so I can just smudge. Well, I want it, but I don't want it in a blob. Okay, so I think I'll go for another brown down here. Try brown and teal, why not? I actually like it as a combination, only this time I'm going to use lime just to be awkward. And then I'll have the teal again down here. Because I'm going to trim the paper down anyway, so any areas that I leave round the edge that I haven't done anything with, oh I do like that, is going to be fine. Right, that one's a bit messy, and we'll go over with this. I'll just dab that on rather than get it all over my hands. Yes, I do like that. Right, so those can dry, and I'll get onto my third piece. So you can see how quickly this is building, very, very rapidly. And I think the more crazy colours that you use, and the faster that you go, the more random the effect, actually the better that you're going to have a result. Right, this one not so good because I was actually using it for gluing on, but anyway, why not? That can come off. I might have another one out of this. So at the moment you're probably thinking this is an absolute horrendous mess, which it is, but this is how I start to build the pattern. Right, so again, that one, now it's a bit saturated, it's going to have to go on the side to dry. I will be going back over using acrylics and others, and I think I actually have a tangerine one, if I'm not mistaken. Peony, oh I like that. Go for peony here. And more yellow. I'm quite happy to get these used up because I have more than I know what to do with, if I'm honest. And very little storage space. So it's actually a help. Because I have another tin absolutely full as well. Right, these are some plain colours, so I'll have those. Oh, that's crafty, that's a nice one. That's a very intense blue. The trouble is when everything is sort of half finished, it's taking up a lot of space, and I really haven't got the room. I'm very, very limited on space. Ah, purpley, that'll be good. Purpley I don't have. As these are plain, I don't have to bother about shaking them up, so that's great. Bamboo. And the nice thing is the desk will be easy to clean, simply because, let's have some solid colour. It's all water soluble, so it'll pick up. I would love, and I mean love, to be able to use some of these permanent spray paints, the car sprays everybody's using, but I craft in my living room, so that is absolutely verboten, because you can imagine I could be dyeing the furniture without intending to, and that could not necessarily be a good thing. Right, I blotted there, let's go here. Yes, I like that purple, it makes a little bit of a change. So I think I'll use it again. Just down this bottom edge here. And blot. I'm not too worried about continuity through this because I've only got the 4 stencils that I'm using, and I've only got the one stamp that I made from the die cut, so it's very much echoing the same shapes, etc. So I really think everything will sort of mix and match in the end quite nicely. Right, we'll whisk that off there and we'll have that one over there. And I'll do the reverse, which will dry that up at the same time and probably give me yet another sheet. Now you do need to wear old clothes for this, because you can guarantee if you're wearing anything nice it's going to cover you more than it's going to cover your artwork. Right, let's go again with the purple this side, simply because I've got it on the reverse, so it'll give me a little bit of continuity. And I've got a red one. Red and purple go great, though that looks a bit faded. Yeah, no brighter by spraying it and shaking it. Okay, flip. Because even here where I've sprayed heavily and it's flooded under a bit, I'm still getting echoes of shapes. So, hi again. Sorry about the abrupt cut off yesterday. I ran out of battery, so that was it, nothing was filming. Right, these are what I sprayed earlier. This is that piece of text weight paper, and as you can see the colour's gone through to the back, which is actually no bad thing whatsoever, so I can carry on and decorate over the top of that easily. This is the 2 pieces of manila folder. At this stage they do look quite a mess, and I certainly don't worry about that either. The first thing I'm going to do is actually cut them down to size, and then I shall go from there. So I used the page die from the actual set, but for all the subsequent ones, because it's a lot quicker than having to die cut one by one, I've just measured up, centimetres, what these need to be, which is 19 by 14. So I'll cut all the rest the same. So first thing I can do are my 14s, because it looks like I'm not going to fit this on this ruler anyway. I'm cutting out the best pieces, so in effect I've created a master sheet. So get rid of that end first, I'm going that way. So I'm going to want it 14. And 14 again. Right, 19. Right, I don't like that little bit there, so I'll cut that off first. Now I'll go for the 19. Then you've got a much more concentrated area to carry on doing the decorating on, and you're not wasting anything. Right, and I think we'll have that. I like that pink in there, and that touch of gold. Nah, too much gold to waste. We'll go there. I like that bit of pink, so let's keep that. Because even the little bits, they can be used for edgings on pages, pockets, tags, whatever. So all these little pieces, I would still keep those. Right, now this one, I do like this a lot. So again I'm going 14 for the width. And then I don't want that little bit. I don't mind some blank space on it because it does give the eye a rest, although you can't call any of this restful, to be quite honest. See, there's the other side of that. I love that. And here I really like this little passage of orange and blue down at the bottom. So let's go 19 this way, and then I can decide where I want that the very far edge. Right, which do I keep? That bit, I think. So there we have it, and this one. I know there's nothing more boring than watching somebody actually cut paper, but sometimes we just have to do it. Or I'll keep all of that because I've gone off the page. So we'll go 19. And that bit, well, that will do for a pocket or something. So I'll take that little piece off there. Sometimes you miscut. I meant to keep that bit, but there you go. Stuff happens. Right, there we go. So I've got these page pieces. That, in fact, I think I'll keep on the back, then that can act as a pocket. So let's have a little bit more off of here. And I'll have that at 14 as well. I want more pink than I want yellow on this one. There we are, no waste. Now then, I'm not as keen on that one in this particular book, so I will set that on one side. This is where I'm going into doing some acrylic and some more stamping. I've got a little bit of carrier sheet off some double-sided tape here. Yes, I think this one will have a little bit of gold. So bear with when I find where I've put it. Like everything, it's never where I think it was. And I'm good enough to have put it back by mistake anyway. Ah, rats. Okay, I'll use a bit of Brilliance ink for this one then. Right, the edges. Now what I do like is this sort of fade out, which I've been doing. So this is where I scuff off the stencil. You need a grip like death, really, to be perfectly frank. That's just giving an edging, and I don't think it's showing up all that much anyway, so I think we'll scoot from that. This is a bit of old t-shirt my husband was throwing out, so that got commandeered as well. But you can see where I get my next sheets of backing paper, or background paper I should say, because I'm constantly doing that. Ah, I've just spotted my gold. Happy days. So you don't need a lot. And what I tend to use are these really cheap household sponges that you can get in the pound shop, something like 10 for £1, or Asda, etc. do them. In fact, I think they were something like 40p in Asda, so just because it's a pound shop or a dollar store doesn't mean it's the cheapest option. For these, I don't even attempt to wash them out because I don't really want all the acrylic going down the sink. So in that case, it's more of a use it and then dispose of it because they go rock hard. So just picking up a little bit here, and I don't so much pat in and dab like a lot of people would do. I actually rub in with a circular motion, and this just gives a really light covering, which also has the advantage of drying really quickly. So I'll just take that bit off of the stencil, and as you can see, that is just giving me a nice little bit of shimmer there. If I wanted to frame the entire piece, and I can turn over straight away, which is even better, like here, I'll do exactly the same again. Just literally rubbing it in. The more gold you want, the more you apply, obviously, but not too thickly. And I'll do the top edge, then I'll do both sides. I'll go back over that one actually, being as how it's giving me a bit of a placement. Or do I want to go slightly to the side? No, I think I'll continue that because it is gold already. So I just really love this edge of this particular stencil because it gives it a really nice subtle frame. To me it's very Eastern, Tales of the Arabian Nights kind of feel. Very Moorish. And I do this side as well, and then I can just give myself a nice little frame edge. Oh look, that lines up well, would you believe? That doesn't often happen to me. Right, again I'll just make sure that's straightish. And in fact I'm just going to give that a bit of a light spritz and see if I can just drag that gold out a little bit more into the centre. Right, okay, and quickly wipe that off because I don't want acrylic paint set rod hard on my stencils. So there we are, that's both sides of that page done. So I'll put that to one side, go on to the next one. Yeah, I want a bit in that blue. That was where I faded out. I went in with the blue acrylic and then faded it out toward that edge. So I'm just going to go in between, which will give me something of a drop shadow, and do it again. I like to have a pile of paper and use similar colours on several sheets or similar shapes like these edgings, because then it gives a little bit of continuity through the journal. Yes, I think that's actually quite smart. And it's just a bit of glimmer, which I do like. And I'll do the same on this end. I don't want to do this on every single one because it can get just a little bit too much of a muchness. But if you have it on a couple, it really does help to give just a little bit of a thread through your entire theme. Right, that side. Not so much. I think as we've got this one, I'll go over with that, but only partially. It's just if I've got gold on one side, I rather like having it on the other as well. Whereas I was flipping over the stencil when it's got the sprays on, I'm not doing it when it's got the acrylic on. Yes, that's just adding that little bit of something there. Now I've got black here, and I have a little black dauber. Now this is where I end up getting covered in ink, so this is a bear with. But I think this just wants a little bit up this top edge. It's just looking a little bit too pale. Yep, that's cool. And I'm just going to do a little patch here. If it's something like a card, you might want to do it in thirds. 1, 2, 3 travels the arrow and the eye around. For something like this, I don't think it's necessary. What I am going to do is this edge again, and I'm going to do it heavily in black. And as I mentioned before, I like to work on this white paper underneath, and half the time it starts to create another background as well. Now that, you see, I think is a nice frame edge. I like that. I don't think I need it down the bottom. What I will do is a bit of shadowing. And scoot the ink pad to make that even heavier. And if I scoot the ink pad and I tilt it more toward that, I'm getting a thicker edge, and it's just giving a little bit more definition. You see the difference between the two, with the black edge and without. So I'll do the same with that one. It's a nice way of doing it because it's quick and you're not sort of having to try and blend in if you've gone off the edge too badly. If you hit the corner like that a few times, you get a sort of a shaded rounded corner effect, which can be quite fun. And then if you do what I just did and drop the ink pad, because it's one of those stupid ones that flips into the lid, it doesn't look quite as chronic. And in this case I'm just going to blend that a bit. These are a lot slower drying than this dress, so it gives you a little bit more time to work with it. Oh, I just found out how to, get the close-up thingy to work. Happy days. Right, next two. So those two are off on one side. Both done, both sides. Happy with that. And these are the other two that I cut. And of course the more you work on them, the flatter they go. Any rule of thumb, if you've got paper which cockles, if it's wet on one side, if it gets wet on the other side, it generally straightens out. And in this case, because I didn't put it under a book or anything, it didn't straighten out a lot, but there you go. Right, next one. I think we'll have a bit of this on this edge, because you can see I've got the gold there, which is quite muted, so I think we'll have it over here, but a little bit heavier. And I'm not worried about using the entire stencil, because actually this shape is just nice on its own. Just going to work it out inside those petal shapes. Keep my finger on it while I have a look. Yes, I like that. Just want one more over here. Because don't forget, you're working on two halves of a page, you're not working on an entire piece. So it doesn't have to be absolutely symmetrical. Yeah, happy with that. Okay, now this could do with something like a bit of a dark blue. So if I put my glasses on, it might help. Right, some more of the paint I've had. I must have had this Martha Stewart gloss. This is back when QVC in the UK was still selling crafts, which they could discontinue doing, so this has to be at least 6 or 8 years old, and I very rarely use it, so this is my sort of perfect occasion to get things used up, to be quite honest, because I have so much paint, so little room that if I can get all these half-used bottles actually used and finished, I'm doing myself a favour. Plus some of them are so old I'm not too sure whether they're viable anymore. Right, I like that, so let's have that on the other side as well. I do like borders etc. when it comes to pages, I have to say. And especially using this sponge method where you're just working it in, it is so much easier than dabby with a stencil brush, which actually I think is really bad if you have RSI, which I do. Right, and we've got that there, so we'll have this one, we'll have a whole image here. 2? No, I think I'd rather have a half and a half. Because you do have with the sprays a point at where you think you've made an incredible mess and the only place it wants to go is in the nearest bin. But especially if you have any spray with mica in it, you don't want to be wasting it under any circumstances whatsoever, because even the faintest bit shows through as a little bit of shimmer, which I really do like. So you do yourself a favour and you don't throw it away, you just carry working on it. If at the end of all of it it's awful, well, if you cut pieces off, that's where you can cover up and do a pocket or a tag. Nice, I like it, I do like that. And you're not wasting anything. The worst comes to the worst, you just cover it up completely with gesso or whatever. Right, so we've got those two edges there. Remember, I have only got these 4 stencils. I don't have anything else except this die, which I cut out in fun foam and I've made a stamp from. That's all I'm using, apart from the original die which has made the actual journal. So this is why all of these pages are kind of coordinating, because every one of them has that little sense of continuity. All of them are going with each other. Now I put down that black ink pad about 30 seconds ago. Here we go. I always find if you look under the largest pile of mess, that's usually where you just put something. So let's have some black on this corner. I'm not doing a dense black, I'm doing quite a light coat. And it's just giving me a suggestion of that shape. And I'm going to do the same here. Just because it's a stencil, you don't have to use all of it. Even if it's a mandala, you still don't have to use all of it. That's just giving a little bit more interest yet again to that edge. Now I'm going to go back to this one, and this time I'm going to use the other end. I always use that pointy bit. Well, I think I'll go berserk and I'll use this bit, and it's going to go on heavily. And if I'm doing a border one end, I might as well do it the other. And I still don't think I like this end as much as I like the pointy end. No, I don't. But anyway, it'll have to stay now. And this can have the pointy end. And at this end, I think I'll go berserk and I'll use something different. That could do with a bit of a spark of colour, so I'm going to use some orange. Again, this is this Martha Stewart gloss. I've got gloss, I've got matte, I've got all sorts, and I'm very happy to get them used up. Right, and this time I'm going to go in a ways. I'm going to start more toward the middle and fade out toward the edge. Oh, it's bubbled. That's better. Yes, that's just giving it a bit of a suggestion. And it's got a bit of a sticky end, so let's get rid of that. Then I get to a certain point with this where I'm going to have to change it because it's going to get too confusing to the eyes. Right, once more with the black edge. It just does give that little bit of emphasis, and I do like that. Right, that for some reason has not dried straight away, so I can have a quick blot. And this needs something down the middle because that's where it's going to be either side of the stitching. And I think I'll go for this shape. And I wonder, I have a pink. Let's give that a go. Yeah, I don't like the way that orange has gone a bit frothy. I maybe should have shaken it a little bit more. But as I say, these paints are very old. Incredibly old. And I think that pink is going to be too pale. So I have a bit of red. I'll mix that. Right, this is a chalk, but paint is paint is paint. Oh, this is one I've had 2 years or more. That's not coming up. I'll go for something else. Oh dear. It landed on the floor. Tuscan red. This should be interesting. Oh no, that I should have shaken. Can you see all that liquid? That's the unmixed acrylic. Well, that's making a nice mess. That's one of the reasons I like to use these disposable throwaway things. Well, that's actually mixed up to something of an interesting colour. I'll take a bit more off of that. And I think what I'll be doing is throwing this bit away. Rapidly. And getting rid of that. And I don't like that at all. So I think we'll have that off. That was hideous, I hate it. Right, I'll keep that bit of sponge, that can stay there. In fact, I can go in the bin. Right. Another bit, we'll try it again. Let's hope this is better. Oh, that's better, that's nice. See bits of dried up stuff and all sorts. Right, so we need to cover a larger area, so let's go for this one. I don't like the way this is frothy. Oh well, this will be a dab 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 rather than a rub 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 in that case. Let's just hope I get a bit of a better result. If I don't, I shall let it dry and I'll go back over it again. Probably with gold. Now let's see what we've got. Oh, that is a vast improvement. Yep, I am happy with that. Thank the Lord. So even when you make a mess, as you can see, there is very often a way in which you can get back out of it. Right, that I like. Now that one is going to have to dry. So I'll just put that aside. So that's bringing me down to, I think this was the last one. Let's give that a bit of a squirt. If it wasn't the last one, then it's out of my pile that I made earlier anyway. So so. Right, time for a change of paper. So let's have this. I'll just get to the point. It's too confusing, you can't see what you're doing, so in that case just put it to one side. Right, that can go to one side and dry as well. So final step is back to these two, which I've edged with the black and etc, etc. And I do have a stamping block. That's 2 layers of the fun foam, one cut, and the other one I just left it in there, though there's little bits come out. It's just to give it more padding. You can see that's the first layer. So that can pop on there. I think I need a bit more glue on that corner, because that's the thing, if this goes a bit ucky, you can simply cut yourself another one. Now the fun foam seems to really do a very good impression. It's quite amazing how good an impression it does give, because it really holds on to the ink like there's no tomorrow. As you can see, I'm just doing areas. I don't particularly want the whole thing covered, but I want something. Right, so that's that one done. Here's the other one. I wish I'd have cut a couple, because I would have then done in the red. I think I really like that red. Really like that red. So I don't want to cover the entire thing and overdo it, but again for continuity, and it's just giving another little point of interest away from only the stencils. So there we are. Even on the dark colour, that lightly applied black over the other, it's still showing up. So that's that one done. So that's 2. Now that's dry enough, I can handle it, I think. Just have that at both side edges. That just wanted something in the centre somewhere. Right, I would say that's enough of that one. Those are edged in black. Yeah. Yes, I love that red. I do love that red. I wish I'd used that on some of these other pages. So I don't like that as much. In fact, I think we'll just have that centre. Yep, I like that. It's just giving it a little bit more of a pop. You can see why I have a pad of child's drawing paper now, can't you? Because I certainly go through the backing paper. Right, so that's those 3 sheets. So that's just one more, and then I shall happily call that very okay. So where's that big one? I'll just have a stripe right down with this one. And you see that pink paint coming through from where I had the wipe up. Still in the same colour family, red to pink, so if it's faded a little, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, I like that. And do we want something there? No, I don't want that. I'll pop it here. Yeah, nice and faint, perfecto. To me, this is very much along the lines of printing with a gel press, but without using a gel press. And just keep going with pattern, pattern, more pattern, yet more pattern, and even more pattern, just for a change. Right, I want a black edge for this, just down these outsides. It's amazing how just that tiny touch makes the difference. Of course, you could equally well do this with paint as with an ink pad. I've used paint on virtually all the others, but I'm wanting to press on now and get this finished. And it did need some black through it to bring it back to the colour of the cover. So right, and I'll just scoot around the edge yet again. A tiny bit of stamping, I think, and then we're definitely calling this done. Yes, I absolutely adore that red. And I really, really like that. I absolutely do. I wish that was in the more in the beginning of the page, so that's going to have to go in the middle somewhere, definitely. And in fact, I think this is going to go here, definitely. Plus it's using up the last little bit of that. I'd forgotten what a gorgeous colour this was. It's Tuscan Red, and it's Deco Art Crafters Acrylic. So even though the filmy stuff, the clear liquid, had come off, it's mixed back beautifully. I've had that pot of paint, got to be at least 5 years, at least. So when you get good stuff, it lasts. But my trouble is I tend to hoard, and I hoard to the point where things start to dry out, and that's just absolutely stupid. Use it or lose it. Simple as that. Yes, I do like that. I like that a lot. So let's just give this its last hurrah. And I'll try working it out from the stencil onto the piece. It may work, it may not. Well, it's given a suggestion, so I'm quite happy with that. Right, that did have stamping, they all do. So this will be it now. There's enough ink left from before I didn't even have to ink this up. Right, and I'm calling that done.